Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Let's do a quick audio check. Can you guys hear us? Can you see us? How we doing for
Oh, good. I survived today.
That's good.
Didn't thrive, but I survived.
At
So,
least
yeah, especially when
survival
I'm trying to buy it,
right.
at least equities. How about
Survival
yourself?
is the name of the game. I survived as well. Did not sound terrible. Okay. I mean, try to adjust. Thank you for the feedback, Edward. Let's see if we can adjust that. If you can give a little bit of constructive feedback on what side of it doesn't sound good, so we can adjust. Uh, but my day was all right. My mic needs attention. Give me 1 second. Let me just figure that out.
All right. Um, in the comments, let us know how you did out in the audience. Um, Good, bad, or indifferent.
All right, check, check. How is
Yeah,
that? Does that sound better?
sounds good to me.
How is this? Let me know, chat. Yep, fixing my mic. Much better, right? Okay, there we go. Sounds good now. Awesome.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Um, we're working out a few
Teamwork.
things. Teamwork, absolutely. Even if you deliver the way you deliver the message, right? Hey, this shit sucks. Well, it's like, okay, well, I'll make an adjustment. Thank you. Lets me know that I need to fix something pretty quick. So thank you again. We'll do the intro. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. We are going to cover the major four markets: the NASDAQ, ES, crude oil, gold, and then any outside markets that may have moved from there. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach for a little over a year now. Started off doing one-on-one coaching, and then as we transitioned into Discord, doing group coaching, and now doing this segment on Topstep TV. Been trading for the last 11 years. Started off trading stocks and options like a lot of people do, and then transitioned over to futures the last 4 or 5 years ago. And it's been a great experience. I think I've gone through a lot of the ups and downs that all of us have done as traders, and that I think that's why I embraced the opportunity to coach, to hopefully help traders get through some of the downfalls that I've had to go through. So, born and raised in New York, lived in New York all my life. I love New York. I don't have any of those corny T-shirts because I don't think anyone who lives in New York has one of those. Um, but New York is home for me. New York is home for me. Coach Paul, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and then we can get into the markets.
Okay, Coach Paul. I've been in the futures industry for 40 years. I grew up in it. I've had many different experiences and many different roles, but trading solely for the last 20 years. Um, I'm from Chicago, um, where we're and wasn't born here but bred here. Um, Been with Topstep for about 15 months. Been a great experience, and I'm here to share wisdom that I've accumulated over the years and um, help our community get to be better traders. So um, that's what I do, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that intro, Coach. And then we'll get right into it. We had a lot of out on the calendar as far as news goes today. We know we had that jobless claims out this morning. Came in as expected. 232,000 was the actual. 232,000 was what was expected as well. We had manufacturing PMI actual coming out at 48. What was expected was 49 and a half, which means that factories are doing a little less, little worse than what was expected. Services PMI came out at 55.2. What was expected was 54, which means some of our services, restaurants, banks, hospitals, hotels, are doing a little bit better than expected, which is good. We know Jackson Hole started today. So we're going to hear a lot. We're going to have a lot of headlines from Fed speakers. Obviously, the big one being tomorrow with Jerome Powell speaking at 9 a.m. Central Time. But a few, quick headlines from Fed speakers. We got Fed Collins. The timing seems appropriate to begin easing policy. We have Harker saying that unemployment is likely to continue to rise until about 5%. He does see inflation moving down, but it will take time to get to that 2% number. As far as the rate cuts go, that's kind of what we expected. So not anything new out of the Fed, and that's to be expected, right? If anything new, we're going to hear it from Powell tomorrow. So not much of a change there. Other big news story, the Canadian rail strike, that could have some economic effects, where there's 10,000 Canadian workers that work on the rail on a strike that could affect crude oil, could affect grains. I think we saw lumber prices affected by that today as well. So just keep an eye out on that, especially if you're trading crude oil. Coach, you have any opinions on any of the news that came out today?
I have opinions, but the
Yeah.
margin costs money, right?
Right.
I think, all eyes are on Chairman Powell's comments.
Correct.
But I did find it interesting without, any big news. We had such a big break.
Yes.
Now, why? I don't know why. But what was interesting, there was from the get-go, there was selling, and it was relentless. So I'm glad I didn't get in front of that in my younger days. I would have tried to buy 50 bottoms.
Right.
So on my swing trade, I got out early this morning, well, right after the opening, and feel that was my best trade of the day.
Nice.
But these are tough. These can be really tough days. Like you said, that there wasn't any, I'll call headline news that was shocking. It was well within reason. And that's why I'm a technician.
Right.
So, but all eyes are on the Fed now. It feels like an FOMC type of event.
Absolutely.
So how about yourself?
Yeah, not too much of an opinion. Again, I think I'm waiting for Powell as well. I'll be on Fast Markets tomorrow while he is speaking. So let's see if we get any volatility and can trade from it. But we always know that anything that he says is going to affect the market some way. We just have to see how that is going to affect it. We'll go with the top percentage movers, and then we'll jump right into our big four. Lot on the downside today. If you see this quote board that I have over here, we have platinum futures down 2.11%, micro Bitcoin down 2.15%, and nat gas, which we had nat gas inventories out today as well, down 4.93% as our biggest percentage mover to the downside. And then to the upside, we have RBOB gasoline futures up 1.32%, crude oil up 1.36%, and lean hogs up 4.4% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. As far as the equities go, where's NASDAQ on here? NASDAQ down 1.5% today. Pretty big move. And we'll get right into the NASDAQ chart. Coach, I have a 30-minute NASDAQ chart up here.
All right. If you can, bring up the daily real quick.
Okay.
And what I wanted to see is, if we look at today's range, if we can blow that up, today's range was outside of how many days? It's an engulfing candle, right?
3.
That's with no quote unquote big news. For bulls, that's a red flag.
Correct.
Or a red cape.
So what this day reminds me of a lot of, and we've been talking about the low volume move that we had up, right? This entire trend. The end of July, the beginning of August, we had a pretty strong sell-off into last week where we had some of this a relief rally, if you will, maybe some short covering. going into FOMC and things like that. But or not even FOMC, we had CPI, PPI last week, so somewhat of a relief rally into that. But we've been talking about this entire move happening on lower volume. It looks very similar to the start of the move that we had in July, right? Maybe not as big of a range. Go ahead, coach.
No, go. You're taking the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, so we had, and just look at this here, we're going back to July 1st, where we had a rally. We know we had holiday time around then, so we're seeing somewhat of a rally on lower volume. The market pushes into a major level, which was 21,000. We don't hit it. We get an engulfing candle, similar to what Coach Paul was just talking about. Today, we have this engulfing candle here on July 11th. The high of the candle is 29.82. The low is 23.56. But the significance of this candle is it covered four of the trading days preceding it, right? The candle we had today did something similar, where not as big of a range and not as much volume, but an engulfing candle over these last 3 days on higher volume than we've seen over the last 2 weeks. So, going into what Powell says tomorrow, I think it's very interesting from a technical perspective what is happening.
Very interesting. I would, one of the things, going into from yesterday to today, I would not have expected a move like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at results more, and the result is that this was a very strong down day.
Yes.
Without major news waiting for the Fed. So tomorrow's a big day from a technical point of view, at least from my perspective. And you made a great point there. It kind of looks similar to that all-time high kind of move.
Yeah.
So how do we prepare for that? Right?
Yeah, don't try not to fight the trend where, we've talked about maybe the buy program was back on, and it was for the last 2 weeks or so. But we know how violent these markets can get when selling starts to come in. So if it looks apparent that we're moving to the downside and volume is going with it, that's not a trend that I want to try to fight. I fought it a little bit today, took some losses. In the house account today, we actually had a house account trade in the
That was a great trade.
NASDAQ. And I thought it was a really well-managed trade, right? And I think if we look at that trade specifically, that was you don't have to be right, but you have to trade right in order to make money. And I know that's your quote, coach, but we had, and I'll go back to the gap, right? We've been talking about this gap for, I don't know how long now, but we had a gap down from July 23rd. July 23rd, we have this gap here. The high of the gap is 948. The low of the gap is 19,881.
Oh.
So where our house account trade came from was that low of the gap potentially holding, right? We checked above 20K as soon as the market opened, right? Right on the New York Open, we checked above 20K. From a volume.
You're great, yeah.
Go ahead, coach.
You're the big number, right?
Yes. Whole number.
Great analysis.
Super psych level, 20,000. Everyone knows when we're trading above 20,000. One other thing I'll point out, I don't have it up on this platform, but I have a Delta profile from July, right, on a different platform. And the largest Delta number on the NASDAQ for the entire month of July was 20,020. Right, where it was a positive delta at that price. So we came up there, there were buyers there, and they got absorbed at that price. That's what today looks like as well, right? We came back up, checked this level. I actually put this on the Topstep daily levels as well. But we came up, checked that level, 20,020. We pushed above it a little bit. 20,025 was the high of the day. And then we just sold off, right? There was not anyone today convinced that they should be buying above that 20,000 level. And if we cut that opening range in half, go ahead.
Yeah, not only that, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't push that above 20,000 again.
Yeah.
It was Yeah, great point.
Yeah. There was just no buyers in here today, and maybe everyone is waiting for Powell. But if we anchor a VWAP there, you can see VWAP was a resistance the entire time down. Every check we got up to it. But I wanted to frame out that house account trade, right? So we had a level, and the market came down to this level and started to hold. Right now, we don't know that the market's going to continue to sell off like this. You can make assumptions about it. But where we took this trade, and I think our entry was 19,885, was a decent spot. We all knew that it was a counter trend trade, and I think the way we managed it was, let's look at a few levels, and if the market does not get back above these levels, we have to get out of the trade, right? We had some of the Topstep daily levels around there. Settlement was right around 19,909. So there's a 20-point trade there. I think we ended up making $3 grand on that trade. So great execution to the team. But that's an example of, and we said it, trading, right? We picked a level, established the risk. We were okay with the risk, but then we assessed the trade as we were in it to say, you know what, maybe there's not as much room in this as we think. Let's go ahead and take the profits, and good on the team for doing that, because we were not right on the direction.
You make a great point there. And we've talked about this before, Coach. If you can make money or lose just a little bit of money and you were trying to buy it today, you're a good trader,
Yep.
right? That's good trading. It was well managed. And here's another thing, and we talked about it earlier on Topstep TV. Sometimes when we're just starting out trading, we can get attached to being right, or like I actually had a good buy early, bounce off the 20-day 200 bar moving average in the S&P on the half hour, and it rallied about 20 points. Now, one example there is sometimes if we don't have a profit objective, an exit strategy, we can get attached to a position.
Yes.
Because, and I've done this one, and I don't, I, it took a long time for me to really learn this, but all of a sudden it had this big move, and I was getting, maybe it's the greed side, like, okay. And then it starts giving back, and you're like, well, if it goes back, I'll get out at the high. And you don't get that opportunity,
Right.
right? Because you have to remain in the present. And then all of a sudden it comes back to being unchanged. And it's like, it's like taking a toy away from a toddler. You
Right.
know,
Right.
right? You're just trying to get that toy back. You're trying to get that profit back, and that you felt was yours.
Yeah.
And being able to take profit, or at least manage that side like you did, that's good trading against the trend.
100%.
So
I think it's so important to realize where your trades are in that overall flow, right? Where I know yesterday you said, Coach, and I don't disagree with you, taking one side, especially if you can identify where that flow is. If you were short today, if you had a short with a good trade location, you had, and I never want to call trading easy, but you had an easier day than anyone trying to buy it. If you were a buyer, that's okay as long as your trade location is all right, and as long as you identify that, hey, I'm counter trend, I'm going to take what the market gives me because it's not giving me a whole lot.
And I like to say counter trend, because how do you determine what the trend is, right? And there's many different ways. In this example, the trend is, we're using VWAP from the opening.
Yep. Yeah.
At that point, at certain points, know where it is, and it's a sharp downtrend. So defining that, tagging that with a value is, I'm buying it under VWAP. What am I doing? I'm buying someone else's burden, an imbalance.
Yeah.
Now, great traders from the pit, scalpers, learned that lesson because they had to go against the paper. So they're playing for ticks, and you have to buy it on the bid, right? And it's hard. It's not easy, but if you're close to volume, you can do that.
Right.
that's establishing a trend. Because again, we had this discussion earlier on Topstep TV. Is it institutional or is it retail?
Yeah,
Well, that to me, retail doesn't move the
the,
market like that.
correct. Yeah, I think you mentioned it seemed like it was, someone had sell orders that they need to place and didn't necessarily care about price. And when that happens, we see price move this way, right? What was really interesting, and then we'll move on to the ES from this, but last night, so Dakota was uh, looking at the markets last night, and we were kind of talking about it, right? We have this 20,000 level. We know we have jobless claims coming out. We know Powell was talking later in the week. There's a lot of catalyst potentially for a trade either above or below that 20K. During slow markets last night,
Yeah.
there was someone on the offer, right? So a passive sell order of 250 contracts right around 19,940. If we see what the reaction was last night, this 19,940 price, someone came out there with a passive sell order, 19,940, and we can see the market reaction. So overnight, that was a really nice short. We came back down to the lows of that gap, 19,881, 19,670, but that order never moved. They actually let it get filled this morning, and just looking at that, right,
Huh.
passive sell order, obviously the market went up above their position, but if I'm selling that much size, either I'm getting out of a long or I'm shorting it, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of my position, right? Where someone might be selling more, right? If I'm selling that much at 19,940, I might be selling more above 20K. Really interesting that when we got below that price, and we can see it here. Look at this, and I'll just zoom in real quick. Let me see if I can take this view up off of here. But this candle right here, during the New York session open, I don't think there's a coincidence that we see acceleration at that price again.
Which we never recovered from.
Correct. So
Wow.
someone came in there, they sold it, they started the selling, and it did not stop the entire day. We did have some relief bounce. I would suggest putting the top step levels on your charts. We pretty much bounce from one level to another. We have last week's high, 19,683, and pretty much a straight up move, almost 150 points to yesterday's value area low. So those top step levels, continue to play out time and time again. I would suggest keeping them on your charts, and they're volume based, they're market generated information, and really good levels to trade around. Coach, anything else on the NASDAQ before we move on to the ES?
That would be it. Let's go to the next.
All right, awesome. Let's talk about the ES. Very similar story. I actually think, personally, I think the NASDAQ was the leader today, making the decision around that 20K level. But, they look very, very similar today. Another downtrend on a shorter time frame. If we look at the 30-minute, which we didn't do so much on the NASDAQ, Coach, what are you seeing here with these moving averages?
Well, they are braiding, as you like to call it. So when we talked about it, what does it mean when it's braiding like that? Uh, the output to me is balance.
Yep.
It's the market is caught up. So what do you mean? What do I mean by that? The buying is slowed down,
Yep.
right? In the buying is being either met with selling or it's stopped. I don't know, but the output is this. It's going sideways.
Right.
So markets move from balance to imbalance. So we had this huge imbalance going up. We spent time before, it was the easy part of buying the dip was just golden. You didn't have to buy dips, just stay long. The hardest part was getting out and getting back in.
Right.
But that whole time we were over that 200 bar moving average. Now, if you blow out, look what happened when we got under it.
Right. And we tried to have this relief bounce, but there was no bids in it, right? Even if we look at this volume, we checked under this 200 moving average, which at the time was right around 56.15. We sold under it. We had this relief bounce. Look at the volume here. There's no one in that. Those buyers are probably taking profits from these highs.
at those highs, if we can put a VWAP from the 8:30 open into that, this is, and when we had this a trade where we went up to VWAP, couldn't get over it, and just so this is liquidation from my point of view.
For sure.
This is someone liquidated some money. Like you said, I said it, price didn't matter. Get me out. And we couldn't hold the 200, which we've been holding for a week almost. Liquidation. Can it recover? Well, absolutely. But
Right.
in the moment, knowing that's reading and reacting to the present tense, in the present tense.
Right.
I tried to buy it. It didn't work. And I stopped trying to buy it. I'm still in the bull camp, but limit your losses. Or for me, it was I happened to have a level on a resistance level in the S&P at 56.64,
Mm-hmm.
and I got out and couldn't find a way to get back in.
Got you. Oh, wow, 56.64, literally the high of the day. 56.65 and a quarter.
Yeah,
Don't you love those?
and I'm not bragging. It just happened to be there. I'm like, well, I noticed yesterday we started. You just said it. We started braiding sideways.
Right.
Just like it's like a rocket when it loses its inertia. What does
Right.
it do? Yeah. So I can go in hindsight capital and going, son of a gun, I should have just sold it there.
It's never that easy. It's never that easy.
It really isn't.
And I think with that, to that point too, I think there's a balance between knowing and doing, and sometimes when you have an idea, for me, sometimes it's human nature, right? Sometimes you second guess an idea, or you're looking for new information. You had your level, you still have to execute, right? And we get paid to execute. We don't necessarily get paid to have the ideas, and that's really important, right? So for all of us, myself included, when you have an idea, Dakota and I talked last night about shorting above 20K. I don't know that either of us did it. And that's trading, right? So the human nature part, and I think that goes for everyone in the chat also, right? You're hearing Coach Paul say, his level was 1.25 from the high. I had a level that was 5 points from the high in the NASDAQ. Make sure when you're calling things out that to that, degree of precision, that you're prepared to execute as well, right? Where you can have the trade idea, stick to that thesis, and just put it on. Because sometimes it might be a scary trade to take, but sometimes those are the best trades.
Yeah, and to me, that level was profit-taking level. I wasn't for getting short.
Yeah.
And you know what? You mentioned it on power players. We all have different ways of looking at a market. It can't all be the same.
Right.
We're not going to have a market. So, if someone who sold it today and made it good on you, I mean, nice trade.
For sure.
We
did have one other trade in the ES during that power players. Actually, no, Market Stalking with D, myself, Deanna, JD, and Eddie. We talked about a short right around 5603, 5602. You guys kind of know how I look at volume. And the reason I like this trade, again, I was still looking to the buy side, and maybe I was stuck with a bias all day. And that's why my trading ended up the way it did. But the reason I gave kind of a check mark for that short was this high volume candle that started at 12:30 Central Time. The low of the candle in the ES is 55.93. The high is 56.09. And we had some Topstep daily levels right around there. Last week's high was 55.86. We bounced off of there, and initially I was looking for the buy, as we were going into that segment, but we started to consolidate in this high volume candle. We took a trade 5603. I just saw D in the chat saying our trade ultimately would have worked out. I think we kind of time stopped it. It got down to somewhat of a profit, and we cut part of the position, and went break even on the rest. But from a technical perspective, this high volume candle held, right? So a sell anywhere in this with a stop above the high ultimately played out. There just wasn't enough momentum until literally the last 3 minutes of the segment where we already cut the trade and the trade worked out. So, but another nice
Coach,
trade. Go ahead.
For our audience, when you say time stop,
Mhm.
what does that mean?
So it's giving the market an allotted amount of time to say, you know what, I'm not seeing what I want. I'm just going to take the trade off. And I do that a lot because I'm a momentum trader, but I also have to be conscious of the fact that if you're a momentum trader, there's not momentum at all times of the day, right? So, and this is why I'll normally trade during higher volume times, because the moves happen a little bit faster when there's volume behind it. So in this case, I actually don't know that a time stop was the best call, because we knew we were trading during a lower volume time. And that's when you got to go trade level to level. But
that's because that's not a common thing, and you hear it.
right.
So
Yeah, if I'm trading during the the first half an hour, the first hour of trade, and those are more momentum trades, if I put something on and it's not happening, it's probably because I'm on the wrong side of the trade. So I'm okay getting out and then waiting for that momentum. From my experience, so
yeah.
It's just like, hey, you know what? Buyers should be coming in here now. There is enough volume to move through some of this liquidity. If it's not happening, it's probably because it's actually not happening and no one's buying it. So being aware of that.
All right. So before we go to our next, can we go back to the date? Oh, you had another trade. I'm sorry. When do we
No.
go to the
That
other
was it.
trade?
That was it. It was the short
All right.
5603. I think we got out somewhere below 5600. I think it was a 3 or 4 point trade.
These are Coach Jay's specialties, by the way.
Yeah.
I love it.
3 or 4 point trade. Shout out to JD for just saying, hey, you know what, we want to put a trade on. Let's go. Find a level. And it was a pretty good trade. It worked out.
Nice.
You wanted to go back to the daily before we move to Crude, Coach?
Yeah. So just to
All right.
look forward tomorrow.
Yep.
We talked earlier. We have a pretty big engulfing candle with a vicious wick at the top.
Yes.
But the 50-day moving average is right around this area, isn't it?
Let's see. I think these
I have it here.
Yeah, these are simple moving averages. I have 50-day moving average right now at 55.32. Does that sound right?
55.32. All right.
Correct.
So that one, and what was today's low?
Today's low was 55.83.
So we have an engulfing candle day. I would put it this way: tomorrow, I'm looking under today's low is extremely important tomorrow.
For sure. Yeah.
So
under that low, I think we had some stats from Edgeful that said shorting under the prior day's low in the S&Ps and the NASDAQ is usually a pretty high probability trade. So make sure you watch out for that level. It's going to be on the Topstep levels indicator as well, but that low is 55.82 and the orders 55.8275 was the low for the day. All right, let us move on. If you guys have any questions for us, make sure you go ahead and put them in the chat. If you like any of the information that you're hearing and if these sessions have helped with your trading, make sure we hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I think we hit 115,000 subscribers today on YouTube. So shout out to Topstep, continuing to grow the brand. When are we going to hit 200K is my question. And that's up to you. Anyone that's watching us right now, tell your friends, your family, hit that subscribe button as well. If they're traders, even if they're not traders. My sister texted me the other day and she was like, hey, great show. I don't even trade, but I like the way you guys deliver information. So shout out to her if she's listening right now as well.
Shout out to her. And hit that like button too.
Hit that like button.
Hit it twice. Oh, you can't.
No, if you hit it more than once, you got to hit it. It's an odd number: 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Don't take our likes away. Please don't take my likes away from me. Crude oil. Let's move on to crude. That crude oil. On a daily, on a higher time frame, it looks like we're coming from a demand, right?
Why do you say that?
We talked about these levels down here, 72, 71, 70 even. And if we zoom out, we're going back to February. February's low was 70. Yep, that's right. 71.41. Then we had lows in June right around 72.48. And the market bounced pretty strong from here, right? In February, we had an 18-point bounce from there. Obviously, it was over the course of 2 months. But this is where the market has made a decision that we're not selling anymore, at least in this current year. So seeing a little bit of a bounce from here, I think I said it yesterday, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Dakota was looking to buy this. I got to ask him if he did. But we had a nice
Yeah, you
bounce.
did say that.
We had a nice bounce in crude today. And we got D in the chat saying the weekly chart shows the demand from last year. Let's go over to a weekly real quick and see if we can see that. I'm going to refresh these charts. And yeah, look at all these wicks on the weekly candles down here.
Yes, it's. I almost get seasick looking at things like that.
Right. It's almost like that $80 level. Is there a downside level that we can frame out as a level that should not be named as well? Maybe it's $70, right? Every time we see crude above 80, we get a rejection. Maybe 70 is the level to the downside where we trade in a 10-point range, and I'm okay with that, right? If we can establish extremes of the range and it's that big, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Coach, remember when we started the beginning of the year? Where did we start in the beginning of the year on that chart?
Beginning of the year, we were pretty much where we are right now.
Where we are right now.
In the low 70s.
Yeah. It's going nowhere fast.
Right. Yeah, which is okay.
It's hard to trade.
Yeah, I definitely,
for me, it's hard to trade. I'm a trend guy.
Definitely agree with you there. Let's kind of frame out the trade. I know this is one of your favorites, Coach. If we frame out the first 30 minutes of last night's open, so this is 5 p.m. Central Time. We have that range. The low is 71.86. The high of it is 72.05, we'll call it. And we're just going to anchor a view up there just to see, kind of how the market responds. Initially, it was a decent sell, right? If we're going from that Globex 30-minute range, we had the VWAP leave the range, price left the range as well. It's a decent short, but anytime I get into a trade, I want to think, what's a potential profit target for this move? And we know on a higher time frame, we're trading right into a high time frame demand, right? We saw it on the daily, we saw it on the weekly. So a decent trade here, but about 20 ticks really. And that's just because, there's a lot of support here.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, I got short that last night.
Oh, did you?
Put my stop in, and I did a mini. I didn't do the big one.
Okay.
And I put my stop in over that, and I got stopped out this morning, and I looked. I'm like, wow, I lost really well last night.
Man, on a move like that, you're okay with taking the measured loss, right? Because if you thought you were right, you were wrong big.
Yeah, you got to put your ante in. So if you play poker, you don't get to put your ante in after the cards are shown, right? It's the same thing here. That's the risk.
Yeah.
Take a peek. It's going to cost you.
We got RW saying my levels matched up to Topstep today. Progress. Awesome, RW. That's great. Love to see that. I love when my levels match up with someone else's that, I think like, hey, that person knows what they're talking about. I see their levels play out. Anytime my levels match up, it's just like, okay, we're all looking in the right spot. And then it's up to us to make that trading decision. And one of the levels that we have here, 71.93, which was settlement. And we've been hearing a lot of talk about settlement recently on Topstep TV. I know Anne-Marie has been focusing on it a lot. We actually had a great settlement short in the NASDAQ today, if you look back at the NASDAQ. But it was an important level in crude oil today. Once we got closes above settlement, we stopped seeing that selling pressure coming. It took a while where it wasn't an immediate, yes, we got above settlement, the market's pushing higher, but we can see this anchored VWAP from the open started to flatten out, right? Initially, it was a downward angle where sellers are coming in, but as we're chopping around settlement, VWAP flattens out, buyers get to step in, and it's just an uptrend from there.
Yeah. Well, that was a pretty big move.
Yep. And
All right.
if we're looking,
What's the
go ahead, coach.
Oh no, I see it. Never mind.
High of the day was 73.52. Looking at Topstep daily levels again, we have this green line over here. Yesterday's volume point of control, 73.53, a tick off of the high, and just another reason to have these Topstep daily levels on your charts. We have the indicator. If you're not on Topstep X, you probably should be, but if not, we have the daily levels website as well. I'll put that link in the chat. Those levels get updated every day by our performance coaches. Obviously, Hogue, our senior performance coach, his levels are what is feeding this indicator. But myself, Coach Paul, Coach Ray, Coach Vince, Coach Jack are all providing levels on that Topstep daily level sheet as well. So if you trade some of the ags, Coach Jack is putting out corn, soybean levels on there as well. I know I saw a trader in the chat yesterday asking about soybean oil. I don't know that Coach Jack has levels for that, but if you ask him, he might do it.
If not, I'll do it.
There
I
you
love
go.
soybean oil.
You ever trade it?
Oh, I trade it all the time.
There you go.
Um,
One lot trader,
it's
10 markets.
right. I can live that way. But bean oil, it's it just as a quick aside.
Mhm.
Bean oil does not have much retail trade in it.
Hmm.
So what I mean by that, it's commercial. So it doesn't have those burps.
Not a lot of speculation going on.
Yeah, running stops means nothing there
Gotcha.
because it's commercial. Like commercials don't have stops,
Right.
right? They're there because they have to
They have
be
to buy
there.
it. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting
Just
stuff.
yeah.
One more of the big four, and then we might get into some of the outside markets, but let's talk about the shiny stuff. Gold.
The barbaric metal.
That might be losing a little bit of its luster
Wow.
after making that all-time high. We have all-time highs in gold, 25.74. And since we made that all-time high, like gold likes to do, makes an all-time high and turns around with a pretty sharp move. We're about 50 points off that all-time high right now, trading 25.20.
Wow. Oh, my immediate when you brought that up,
Mhm.
and let's ask the chat, what formation? Let's just ask the chat, what formation do we have here? And this is the half an hour.
Yeah, this is a half hour. Yep.
Let's give it a couple seconds. Anybody have any?
What
What
chart pattern is
formation
this?
are you? What chart pattern is this?
Let's see who knows their shapes. It's funny because I'm always the last to recognize these, so I wonder if anyone got it.
Trend lines. So
There we go,
it's
Hig.
10 more seconds.
Yeah, we got it.
Do we hit
Shoulder, head, shoulder. Yep, head and shoulders. There we go. Everyone
head
knows
and
it.
shoulder? When's the last time we saw that? And that's off the all-time highs.
That is off the all-time high. And I'm going to show you guys how bad I am at recognizing some of these chart patterns. I think this is one here, right? Would we call this a head and shoulder? We got a little.
No, it's not well defined.
Yeah, not as clean as this one.
You don't see it. This one is clean. I mean, it almost looks like a slouching head and shoulders to the right, which, the nuns when I grew up used to hit me for that. No slouching. But also that head and shoulders, and we settled underneath the 200 bar moving average.
Yes. Yes, we did. For the first time in a couple days. Are you talking about the daily or the 30-minute, coach?
The 30-minute.
30-minute, yep. Yeah, pretty strong close below it.
Yeah, that's
and
interesting.
What's different that I'm seeing about this close as opposed to the other one, right? Because we had a close. Actually, nope, this is not a market close under it. the 20 and the 50 moving averages have moved under that 200 now, right? Where they held here, they're moving now, and there's a clear distinction between that 20 and that 50 that looks like we're going to start to trend lower.
Down.
I know we were looking at 2,600, but
Yeah.
they stopped buying it.
Yeah, but they stopped buying it. Whatever it is, the buying stopped, which is really important information.
Yep. Yes, it is. But
Can we look at the daily?
Yeah, let's look at it. Here's the daily. We're still pretty far above the 20 moving average. So on a higher time frame, we're still in an uptrend. And maybe this is one of these moves where we get, we make a new all-time high, we pull off 100 points, and then bounce, right? And this could be the start of that potentially.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, because on a higher, wow, look at this pattern here. 100-point pull off, then we bounce. And as we start to make highs, another 100 points, sell off. Sorry, my dogs are barking.
Who let the dogs out, Coach?
Must have rang the doorbell, and it's a little Boston Terrier, and she just goes crazy anytime she hears a noise. So I think she stopped now. But we got D saying that's the market flipping us off pattern on the 30-minute, which head and shoulders. That's exactly what it looks like, though. It's like, nope, we are going the other way.
Is everybody in?
Right. Make sure strap in your seatbelts. This ride's about to drop. And that's what
There's the one finger salute for you now.
That's what gold looks like right now. But we will see, right? Anything can happen, of course. We know we have Powell coming out and with his speech tomorrow. That could affect the gold markets and metal markets as well. So, we don't want to try to predict exactly what's going to happen, but from a trend perspective, the trend might be breaking a little bit. Let's get into some questions.
It's being challenged. Yeah, let's get some questions.
Coach, we got a question for you from Larry McCullers. Coach Paul, do you leave your moving averages on your charts when you're trading?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All the time.
Gotcha.
To reference them. And actually, I'll take there are times I will hide the bars or the candles and just look at VWAP and the moving averages. But they're always on there. It's reference.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the time.
Awesome. Awesome.
How about another question?
Yeah, we got another one from Larry. I noticed that when I use my practice trades, I do well. And then when I put the same trades on, I'm guessing either in a combine, XFA, funded account, personal account, not doing as well. Help me understand what's happening there.
You want to start with this one?
Yeah, the pressure of real money is getting to you. And what that might mean is you're not comfortable with the losses that you are going to take. We all have to get comfortable with it. And if for whatever reason you can't put on the same exact trade ideas, there's a psychological barrier to doing so, in my opinion. Because nothing is changing on the charts, right? The charts are going to do, if I close down this platform and go outside, the charts are going to do whatever they need to do, right? It's about my analysis of them, how I fit into it. And if I'm reading it well, it's putting the risk on and taking the trade from there. And if for some reason you're not able to do that, it's probably because the risk that you're taking is too large. What do you think about that, Coach?
Well, yeah, it's exactly it. There was actually a psychological study that humans, the losses affect them twice as much as winners. You get a feeling of dopamine when you're with, but it's twice. It's harder to take losses, right? So now you're live versus practice. So now you're under pressure. Decision making under pressure is different than decision making, right? Without pressure.
For sure.
We see it in sports. We see it with CEOs. We see it with political leaders. Can you make good decisions when the shit hits the fan? Right?
Yeah.
It's live now. It means something. Especially it's money. So what happens is we don't want to take losses,
Right.
and it changes our decision making. I've been through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I almost would say it's universal versus it's not uncommon because I'm assuming um, we're humans here,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're not,
Um,
send me an email. If you're not an email, I got some money I'm going to send you. If you have no emotions and can trade this, trade markets with no emotions, let me know. We just have
so
to learn how to deal with them, right? We're going to have emotions. Sometimes you hear people say, be emotionless. It's asking yourself not to be human, and that's just kind of not real. It's learning how to navigate around your emotions when you do have them, and not allowing them to kind of hijack your trading.
exactly. Being emotionless. There's a great trader, Ed Sequoia,
Hmm.
big fund manager, and he puts it this way: the feelings you're unwilling to feel will run your life. What does it mean by that? Like, if you're not willing to feel the loss, or as another great trader put it, love your losers,
Yeah,
there's going to be a drama there. And I've been caught in it's like, what's the other one? Hugard, best loser
best loser
wins.
wins. Great book.
So it comes in, we tighten up with losses. And when that happens is when we're live, when it counts, you know, because, you know, Nassim Taleb calls it skin in the game.
Right.
It's why I don't watch ESPN commentaries.
It's very easy to talk about a game when you're not in it, right?
We get in there,
Yeah,
right?
right.
It's like, oh, look, that receiver was wide open. Well, you weren't there. You
Yeah.
weren't. You
You didn't
weren't
have
in
a,
that.
a 300-pound lineman breathing down your neck, wanting to rip your head off, right? It's a lot harder to make those decisions.
And in coaching it's in coaching. It's like there's the all-star player in practice who can't do anything in the game.
Right.
Um, until he learns that it's all right to make turnovers. You can't make too many turnovers. They're going to happen how you react. So when it goes live, and your whole emotional structures changes, and with experience, right? And we'll talk about having predefined risk
Hmm.
and being comfortable with that risk.
Right.
And if you're not comfortable, don't take that trade. Size down.
Right.
Get into a groove.
Speaking of risk, some of the risk features that we have in Topstep X were not there when the platform was first built. I'm not sure if some of you knew that, but some of the lockout features, daily loss limits, daily profit targets, and things like that. Those were not features that were a part of the platform when we first started. And what that comes from is the community kind of suggesting things to Topstep to say, hey, we want to see this, and you guys can all do that. There's a way you can do it. If you're on Topstep X, you have this little question mark here. Click on support, and we have uh, this entire list here, right? So we want you all as traders to kind of help shape what this platform can become. You'll see a bunch of posts here where for what is already planned, what's on the roadmap. Anytime anything gets updated, there's a change log as well. But in this feedback, I'm going to go back here. I do think you have to sign in, so I'm not going to sign in right now because that'll take a little bit of time. But you can go ahead, create a post for what you want to see on Topstep X. And the way to get your post pushed up, upvotes. So you can see here, this has 1.4K votes, improvements to the bracket orders. So that's planned, right? The team's going to go ahead and work on that because a lot of the community wants to see it. So if there's anything that you want to see change with that Topstep X platform, make sure you go ahead, submit a post or upvote something that's already there. If it's something that's already there, for example, delta indicators, right? That is on a lot of our lists. It's top on mine. I already upvoted it. That's something that's already being worked on. So submitting another post for it might delay it a little bit. Try to find what that post, what you're looking for, right? I can go in search. I can search for Delta, and it should come up right where we have a bunch of different Delta requests. Look at how many people wanted it. And here we go, add cumulative Delta indicator. We have 609 upvotes on that, and that's the one that's going to get worked on. So feature voting in Topstep X. If you want to improve the platform, that's how you're going to go ahead and do it.
You know, I have to make the comment there. What, I've been around a long time.
Yeah.
And usually it's, hey, this is what you get. What a community where you can, it's collaborative.
Right.
Not versus, hey, you'll get a cheeseburger and you'll like it,
You're
right?
gonna eat what I cooked. I heard that a lot as a kid.
Yeah. you get a voice here.
Right.
And you know, it's, where else does that happen? I don't know of a place. So wow.
Yeah. Continuing to build, this platform is not going to look the same a year from now. It's only going to get better. Built for traders, by traders, which is what we want. We got anything else in the markets? We got a few minutes left here. We went over the big four. Tomorrow, as far as news goes, we know we have Jerome Powell speaking at 9 a.m. Central Time. I'm going to be on Fast Markets for that. So that's the big one. That's what everybody's waiting for tomorrow. As far as news, we will see how it affects the markets. Coach, before we go, we're going to do this Coach Paul scouting report segment, where maybe an outside market, something that we might be overlooking. Anything that's on your scouting report right now that you know, just off the beaten path market that, hey, this is providing some opportunity. I know we talked about Bitcoin yesterday.
Yeah, I tried it and lost a little there.
Okay.
And I'm going to try it again tomorrow if it gets above certain levels.
Okay.
So it's above the 200, but it failed. It's struggling. It's sideways. But that's the one I think it's got more upside than downside. So
Okay.
I'm going to try the long side again.
Nice. Okay. So on that scout, still micro Bitcoin, 50 cents a tick, not going to blow your, you know, your XFAs or your combine trading responsibly there. Anything is possible. If you trade 15 contracts, then, you know, that's on you. But if you size appropriately, micro Bitcoin, a decent market to trade. Again, anything we're talking about here is for educational purposes, not a suggestion to take a trade. But, you know, if it's a market that you have not traded before, you're looking for other opportunities, maybe try it in a practice account, put some contracts on. And from a technical perspective, I really like how micro Bitcoin trades as well. Right now, it's kind of in a range, right? If we're looking at the moving averages, kind of braided around each other. But anytime we get a test of that 200 moving average on the 30-minute, we get a pretty nice bounce from there. So that's for our outside market. I don't know that I have anything else. I think I'm done for the day. Gonna get outside for a little bit. Come back to watch the rest of the programming that we have. If you didn't know, Topstep TV is 6 days a week now. We have Nick Vortic doing a Sunday open at 4:45 Central Time. We have Coach Dakota with Slow Markets Sunday through Thursday. So today will be his last day for the week, and that is 7:30 to 9 Central Time. We have Deanna with the London Open, 3:30 a.m. Central Time, and then you have the daytime show, of course, which everyone comes for. And then Coach Paul and I for At the Buzzer, right after 4:15 Central Time, Monday through Friday. Coach Ray and Coach Vince are doing classes in Discord every day, Monday through Friday. And Coach Ray usually goes 6 p.m. Central Time, Coach Vince at 7 p.m. Central Time. I would suggest joining those, Coach. I think I saw you watching Coach Ray's class yesterday. And anytime I get a chance to join, I'll go ahead and do so. I learn something every time I do one of those. Richard Harris wants to know what my Boston Terrier's name is. Her name is Sadie. Sadie. Yeah.
All right.
Sadie and Daisy. Daisy's the 70-pound bulldog who gets beat up by Sadie every chance she gets.
Oh, well, isn't that the way it works?
Yep. Yeah. If there's a toy in the middle, Sadie's going to win most of the time. Most of the time. But I don't think I have anything else. Trade well. If you trade tonight, if you trade into tomorrow, maybe during that Powell volatility, let him say what he has to say before you take some trades. But whatever you do, go ahead and manage your risk. Coach, you got anything before we go?
One thing you just mentioned all of the different classes and segments.
Yep,
A lot of great information here.
for sure.
Go in. I step into all these different coaches. I learn stuff. It helps. Um, so it's a great opportunity, um, and it's from experienced traders.
100%. Thank you everyone for hanging out. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up one more time if you haven't done so already. Tell your friends and family to subscribe. And Coach Paul and I will catch you tomorrow, Friday at 3:15 Central Time for At the Buzzer to close out the week. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.